Two small sycophants stood on a tall grey rock and gazed out over the Vale Sea. The dark waters were choppy, and the largest moon was pulling and pushing huge waves up on the shores, only to call them back again. The banks were covered with sycophants, all poised and waiting for battle.
"They're coming,"
Rast whispered, his voice sounding old and tired.
"I know," Reed replied. "I'm worried that each breath might be my last."
The night felt poised to fall and shatter, as if someone had stacked it precariously on a high shelf, and now the smallest motion might send the whole thing tumbling down. Orange flares shot across the sky, drawing lines from one end of Fu to the other.
"Keep your heart light,"
Rast pleaded.
"Please." "It's not in my nature," Reed admitted, "but I'll try."
Rast smiled at his friend. Rast was one of the most important sycophants and the brightest point in the Chamber of Stars. He had been entrusted with the well-being of Fu, and now the entire realm teetered on the brink of collapse. Rast stared at the thousands of sycophants who were all poised and waiting along the shore for battle. In the past, the only way to see the sycophants would have been to look through the special glasses he had. Now, with the secret of the sycophants floating around everywhere, and so many lore coils exposing the words that stole the sycophants' invisibility, there was no need for the glasses. Rast, along with anyone who had vision, could easily see every sycophant.
"Everything's changed," Reed complained. "How can we ask our children to fight when they are visible?"
"They must," Rast said, "and they still have their claws."
The claws Rast was speaking about were temporary, and usually came during the few years all sycophants spent committed to guard the shores of their homeland. The claws were tremendous and razor-sharp, and shot out from their knuckles and could slice through just about anything. Their claws were extremely effective weapons, especially when sycophants were invisible. Now, however, they would be fighting against larger foes without the ability to disappear.
"I wish Brindle were here," Rast said. "His heart is always light."
"He'll be back,"
Reed said, too worried about himself to think of others.
"We'll win this, right?"
Rast looked at his friend and sighed. He put his small hand on Reed's shoulder. Reed was a kind but anxious sycophant. He was one of the lower points in the Chamber of Stars.
"I can only hope,"
Rast answered.
"Fu can't fail," Reed argued.
"Can you hear that?"
Rast asked in a hushed whisper. Reed jumped and then steadied himself.
"Oh, hear what?"
"Look,"
Rast said, pointing. His voice was filled with sorrow.
"The gloam now connects to our home."
Reed looked, but there was nothing but darkness and thousands of sycophants standing motionless and on guard.
"I can't see anything but our troops."
"See how the black of night moves right above the gloam?"
Reed slowly shook his head.
"Oh, we should have shattered that map,"
Rast said.
"We tried,"
Reed shivered.
"Well, it's too late now,"
Rast said sadly.
"Can you feel that in your feet?"
Reed fell to his knees and pressed his palms down against the stone.
"Oh, what am I supposed to... Wait, the ground's shaking."
"Ready the captains,"
Rast ordered.
"Claws out and eyes wide. Look over there, now."
Reed looked toward the gloam and could faintly see thousands of twinkling bits of silver reflecting under the moonlight. The lead rants were carrying huge silver poles, and the staffs were strung with thousands of coin-sized pieces of silver.
"Reed," Rast ordered, "I was wrong. Claws out and eyes like slits. Don't look at the metal."
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.